Yeah, Florida, Utah plays tonight. We'll talk about that in a little bit here, and then also Nebraska and Minnesota play each other. So that's two pretty solid games right off the bat. But before we get into the Florida game, I did kind of want to touch on the USC game. I know I had some quick thoughts about it, but I just kind of want to hear what you thought of that game.
I thought it was surprisingly close in the first half, and I think that people are like, okay, discourse around this game is really annoying because every single sports account was like, oh my God, Caleb Williams had like 250 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, is he a Heisman again? Like, no, he's supposed to against. Who did they play again? It wasn't like
San Jose. Yeah, San Jose State.
Exactly. So he had like a pretty decent game, but the fact that people are already on the Caleb Williams like Heisman train is kind of crazy to me. I think that they struggled in the first half way more than they probably should have against San Jose State, but then in the second half they just kind of blew it out. Every time San Jose State would make it like close, they would just, like they returned to kick for a touchdown right after San Jose State scored, and then kind of blew the air out of the tires. But I will say, USC's defense does make me a little nervous for picking them to win. They were getting shredded by San Jose State, which is not a great look.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, USC probably wasn't showing all that they're capable of in that game because they don't have to. They actually, if you look at their schedule, they don't really play anybody for a while. I think their next competitive game would be they play somebody in like week 6, but I know this week they play Nevada, so it's gonna be the same thing. It is. I agree with you with the Caleb Williams stuff. It is kind of annoying. You get on Twitter, it's like Sports Center tweets Caleb Williams balled out again. Will he win another Heisman? Which I mean, I understand. I mean, they're gonna peddle that Heisman propaganda. He's gonna have a great year, but they struggled defensively. Offensive side of the ball, I mean, they're gonna be phenomenal this year. We expected that, but this is a year where expectations for the defense are pretty low. Last year they were awful. I mean, we have never seen an Alex Grinch-led defense be successful at all. We've always seen Lincoln Riley have these phenomenal, potent offenses, and then you have the defense giving up like 40 points a game. I mean, off the top of my head, I think Oklahoma played – it might have been Navy or Army. It was some random school, and they like almost lost that game because of how bad the defense was. And yeah, I'm not too high on USC. They'll be a lot of fun to watch this year, but obviously I don't want to overreact as well. But kind of comparing, contrasting, like the Caleb Williams hype on Twitter, I think was a bit irritating. But moving into the next game, Notre Dame plays Navy. Obviously, we knew that they were going to blow Navy out. I mean, Navy could not complete a pass basically the whole game, but a lot of people were hyping up Sam Hartman, Notre Dame quarterback, because he had a great game. I think that's a different case. I know you're not in the same boat as me on this, but I think Sam Hartman's going to have a great year for Notre Dame, and I think that was kind of just like the tip of the iceberg for what he's going to be capable of this year. But competition, not the greatest. But I said USC won't be playing anybody tough for a while, but Notre Dame has some tough games on their schedule. So we'll see if the Hartman Heisman hype, wow, that's not really good. Hartman Heisman hype, say that 3 times fast. If that will actually be a thing this year, if it'll just kind of fizzle out after a couple weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the I don't know why I said USC. I think that Notre Dame, I still every year think that they're one of the most overhyped teams. But
every year, I mean, they show us it's just like Texas. You get all this hype going into the season, but after a couple games, they finally play somebody and the hype fizzles out. So I get what you're saying for that. It's just like we're sick and tired of hearing the same stuff every single year.
But like I think any of like the service schools, Navy, Army, Air Force, any game against them is basically like if you have a run defense that's semi-competent, you just win. So I don't think that this is like a big statement by Notre Dame. I saw everyone going, "Oh my God, Notre Dame looks great." I'm like, "Good, sure, you should." Navy attempted 6 passes all game.
Yeah, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the service academy schools playing actual football teams, but it is so frustrating to watch. And I will never be able to wrap my brain around the fact that they do not throw the ball.
Yeah.
It's like you can't recruit one person who can run the ball well and also throw it a little bit.
You'd feel like with like the weight limits they have too, it would make more sense to be like an air raid style, right?
Yeah, I mean every once in a while you'll get a couple guys that can throw the ball, but it's so frustrating to watch. And obviously, I mean, I'm not going to say anything bad about the service academies, but football-wise, it is tough. And who knows? Maybe with the realignment of conferences, they'll maybe create their own.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. For football, I have no idea how that would work. I'm sure that'd be a big pain in the ass. But
I will say, shout out Andre Carter II, made the Vikings 53.
So how does that work? Does he have? So he just waives his servant? I'm interested.
So I think they said that it would be deferred until he retires.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so he out of Army, obviously went undrafted after being like a second round hype, signed with the Vikings.
I was really surprised. I thought he'd go like 5th round or 4th round around there.
Yeah, I thought for sure every single round, every single pick, I was like, come on, Andre Carter's got to go here. Like he's so much potential. And it's kind of interesting. Sorry, I know this is like a big tangent, but the fact that the Vikings are keeping him on the active roster because they didn't want to open him up to waivers. So he's still not big enough to play in the NFL, and he did almost nothing in the preseason. But I guess they think that he has so much potential that they're keeping him on as like an active so he can't get claimed by another team.
Well, I mean, I guess you got him at a discount rate. You wanted to draft him. They didn't even have to draft him.
We had 3 undrafted players actually make the team, and 2 of them I specifically shouted out in a tweet right after the draft. Ivan Pace might be our starting middle linebacker week 1.
I cannot believe he went undrafted.
He's so good. He's actually really good. And then Andre Carter has the potential to be really good. And then Najee Thompson out of Georgia Southern made our roster, and he's going to be like our special teams gunner, like Matt Slater type role.
Gotcha. So, I mean, that's important. And that's a shout out to the Vikings for being able to just pick those guys basically off the streets.
We had 5 draft picks and 8 rookies on the roster. So
we're going to be quick with the Alabama football analysis. Obviously, we have some games here that'll actually be a lot closer. I mean, the Alabama game could be close for a little bit. Who knows? I don't want to jinx it, but I'll see Alabama football as an evening game against Middle Tennessee State. I guess, what do you hope to see from this game, and what do you think we'll actually see from this game?
I hope to see a little bit of consistency in the quarterback room. I hope to see the receivers making like more plays, and I hope to see the offensive line hold up better than it has been. But the caveat is that I think all of these things will absolutely happen, but I don't know if you can garner anything from it. Like I said about, USC or Notre Dame beating up on Navy. It's Middle Tennessee. Everyone's going to look good. If someone doesn't look good, then that's a problem. That's a red flag, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I would hope – I'm assuming Milroe starts at this point. Saban today came out and basically was like, Ty Simpson has looked good, blah, 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 which is like a compliment you give your backup quarterback. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be Milroe. And I really hope Milroe looks good against Middle Tennessee, because if not, then Bama's in trouble.
I agree with you, and shout out to DarkSage9117 in here interacting in the chat. Thank you for watching. We appreciate having some new people in here. Hot what?
He said hot take, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, and USC will be in the playoffs. I think Notre Dame is an extremely hot take for me. And the thing about Ohio State and Michigan is like one of them has to go undefeated and the other one has to only have lost in the game against Ohio State and Michigan for them to both make it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any, like, they'll be 1-4 if they both make it. And
Yeah.
I don't really think there's any way around that. So then I don't know if they can even I'd be very surprised if they were 1-3.
Yeah.
So then for the national championship game, I don't even know if that could work out. They'd have to be 1-3, but then a bunch of logistics stuff about that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the last year of quote unquote normalcy, and I mean, last year was chaotic as all get out. So who knows? Maybe that'll be the case. But
they're both good enough to make the playoffs.
Oh yeah, for sure. Going back to the Alabama. Oh no, you're good. I agree with you. I'm not expecting us to see anything crazy. I'm sure Milroe will attempt 15 passes. I mean, they're just going to run the ball basically the whole game, cycling through McClellan, Roydell Williams, maybe to see some of those freshmen. So I'm not expecting them to air it out, throw the ball a bunch. I'm just expecting them to run the ball efficiently. And I mean, that's basically what we're going to see all year from this team. Their identity is going to be smash mouth, run the ball down your throat. And I've echoed that sentiment multiple times on this show and on social media as well. I've heard nothing but great things about this offensive line this year. Mm-hmm. Nothing but great things. This could be one of the best offensive lines we've had in a while. And I actually saw a graphic today. I think our average height and weight for offensive line is 6'5", 340, which is, I mean, you've just got some absolute maulers on that offensive line. J.C. Latham, Caden Proctor is a true freshman. He's going to start. And that's a guy that we stole away from Iowa, who was the number one offensive tackle in the country. Yeah. So it says a lot about that guy that he's stepping in as a true freshman at an important position like offensive tackle, and he's going to be a starter. So you got those two guys at tackle, and then Seth McLaughlin. I mean, they're just deep at guard, deep at tackle. I mean, this offensive line is going to be special this year. I think a lot of the casual fans don't really know what to expect. But as somebody who's a complete college football nerd, I've heard nothing but great things about this line. So I expect them to run the ball. I would like to see, selfishly, a heavy dose of Milroe, not just him handing the ball off, but throwing the ball. I don't think we're going to see that, like I said, but I would like to see it. And then also Milroe running the ball. I'm sure they'll have some design runs, whether they're going to show them this week or save them for the following week when we play Texas, which will be a tough game. Is up in the air. And I agree with what you said about the receivers. Ja'Cory Brooks, I mean, we kind of know what he is. He's very underrated. Not many people are talking about him, but he'll be great for them. But aside from him, you've got Jermaine Burton, who hasn't really done much. And then you've got a bunch of young guys who have all the Malik Benson, Aaron Anderson, just basically a bunch of guys that are very talented, very highly rated as recruits. Well,
didn't Aaron Anderson transfer out?
Aaron Anderson might have transferred out.
I think he went to LSU. Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking of what's that guy's name?
Isaiah Bond.
Yes, Isaiah Bond. That's who it is. I don't know how I got those two mixed up. But Isaiah Bond, lots of talent in the room. Never been a question mark, but the last 3-4 years, it's been about, okay, we have all this talent, but can this talent, when it gets playing time, actually be effective? And that's a big question for this team this year. Score prediction. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna make my score prediction.
I started to say score prediction, and then I was like, Tyler had this basically down to a science last year, so I'll let him go first.
I did, and I think, drum roll please. I think I'm gonna go for. I didn't want an actual drum roll, but thank you. I'm gonna go for 49-6. I think that they get a few field goals. One might be pretty early too. I could see it being an Alabama thing, first or second drive, they get a field goal, and people go, "Oh my God, the defense is bad again," and then they don't score until the fourth quarter. I think 49. I was thinking in the 50s, but I'm thinking, like you said, they're going to be running a lot. It's going to be killing a lot of clock with the new rules this year too, where the clock doesn't stop on first downs until the last 2 minutes of the quarters. Then I think that there's going to be less scoring. And I think that they're going to keep it pretty vanilla. I think that you're not going to want to bust out anything fancy against Middle Tennessee when you have Texas literally week 2. So I think that it'll be a pretty boring, just kind of smash. I mean, not boring. Sorry,
Joyless murder ball.
Joyless murder ball, as everyone likes to put it.
I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what you said, but I'm actually going to go 52-0. I think the defense pitches a shutout and makes a statement with Kevin Steele there as a defensive coordinator and a bunch of dogs that they have along that defense. I think they pitch a shutout the first one, which will make Alabama fans very happy because
it's been 1,000 years.
Yeah, the defense has been in the doghouse for a while with Pete Golding. But Pete Golding's no longer there anymore. Going to the Florida-Utah game. I wish I was going to it. I don't know why I said going to. But Florida and Utah play in about 13 minutes or so.
Yes, we gotta speed it up.
Yeah, well, we won't rush. But, yes, we'd like to be out of here around that time the game kicks off. But Florida at Utah, we talked about this before the show a little bit, but Tyler and I are kind of in the same boat. Utah is favored by 5 points at home. One of the things that is major for this game is the fact Cam Rising's out, and you can't replace a guy like that. His experience, I mean, he had 3,000 yards throwing, 465 yards rushing, and 32 total touchdowns last year. And not just are you be without your starting quarterback, but your backup quarterback, Brandon Rose, is also out. So you're on your third string quarterback, Bryson Barnes. I think the guy's a former walk-on. So they're hoping for a Stetson Bennett-like performance for him tonight. But also tight end Brant Kuithe is also out. So, and we know how much Utah has liked to utilize their tight ends in the past. That's a guy who's was presumed to be a big part of their offense this year. Coaching-wise, Kyle Whittingham is a great coach, and Utah they won the Pac-12 the last 2 years in a row. But I think I look at this game and I contrast it to last year's game where, granted, Utah was going to Florida. Obviously, Florida's at Utah, so home field advantage is big. But I remember last year everybody was talking about how, Florida didn't stand a chance. Utah was going to beat up on them. And then Anthony Richardson went out there and ran for 3 touchdowns and just basically carved that defense apart. And I kind of see the same thing tonight, but not running the ball. I see it throwing the ball with Graham Mertz.
I've always been a Graham Mertz.
I got it on here. Do we trust the legend that is Graham Mertz? And I think we
absolutely do. Yes,
we're ride or dies.
I like everything you said. I think that Cam Rising being out is going to be huge for Utah. I think that Graham Mertz is a transfer. You never know how transfers are going to be their first game in the new system. But I think that he actually has a solid chance. I mean, he has better weapons around him at Florida than he would at Wisconsin. So,
yeah. And the word on the street about Graham Mertz is that even the Wisconsin coaches said that basically they didn't really put him in the right place to succeed, like mentally and physically. Yeah. So they are aware. I mean, this is a guy who's a high 4-star, almost 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. So the talent's there. It's just being consistent. And he'll get his chance tonight in front of the whole country to prove just how good he is.
Yeah. I'm taking Florida over Utah.
Yeah, I'm taking Florida straight up as well. I'm still surprised that last time I checked, the spread was Utah by 5. So that's absolutely crazy to me. But the other game tonight, we talked about it in the intro, is Nebraska at Minnesota. I think we're on the same page about this game too. Don't know how Minnesota is favored by 7 points.
Right.
I will say I'm an absolute casual when it comes to Minnesota. I know nothing about them. I think last year they had Tanner Morgan, but one thing's for certain, and if you look at their quarterback room, they definitely have probably the 2 most complicated last names of players. You've got Ethan. Oh gosh, we could do a whole segment me trying to pronounce names. Starting quarterback is Ethan Kalakamanis, and then backup quarterback, I actually think he's third string, is Max Shikinjanowski. So,
dude, I feel like that second one was really good. I don't know if I give you.
I said it fast.
I don't know if I give you credit on the first one, but the second one definitely. I think I would go for a solid Kalia Kamanis on the first.
Yeah, it's obviously Greek, so you're probably better at this crap than I am. But I mean, this guy Kala Kamanis might make me eat my words tonight. But I look at Nebraska, Matt Rule. We've seen how great of a coach he is in college. Didn't have the success he would like to with the Panthers, but took Temple to 10 wins, which is very challenging to do. Turned around Baylor program that had won one game in just a couple of seasons. I think they won 11 or 12. And then Jeff Sims, quarterback for Nebraska, was at Georgia Tech. Very, very just big quarterback. I mean, he's dude 6'4", 220, so he definitely looks the part.
Yeah.
And defensively, I think Matt Rule is going to have those guys up for this game. And so I'm going to take Nebraska, honestly, to win the game outright. I definitely will think they cover the 7-point spread. Minnesota did win 9 games last year. I was surprised when I was doing the research for the show tonight. So PJ Fleck, we know what he is as a coach, a great motivator. So, and then you never want to count them out, but the fact that they're favored by 7 is questionable.
Yeah. I agree. I would also think I'm taking Nebraska straight up.
We're 2-2 look at us, dude.
I know. Well,
that makes it no fun. We got to argue some.
I've been a vocal Matt Rule supporter since day one in college. I think Matt Rule is great. And I've said it time and time again, so I won't say it, harp on it too much, but he just wins everywhere he goes in college. So I think he's going to start winning with Nebraska.
Next game that we have is Colorado at TCU, and this is a game that I'm staying just flat out. I'm staying away from it. I mean, I'm going to watch it, but I don't even want to make a pick because I can see this game going 2 different ways. Obviously, this is Deion Sanders' first game as a Power 5 head coach. We saw what he did with Jackson State, but, I mean, this is the big leagues. This is Pac-12 football. You're playing a TCU team that was in the national championship last year, had a phenomenal year. So we don't know what we're going to see from them. I mean, we could see a hangover from their absolute Georgia beatdown in the national championship game, or we could see a team that some think is better than last year's team. Chandler Morris, a quarterback. I know JoJo Earl transferred there. So they're talented. They still have Sonny Dykes as their coach. They did lose offensive coordinator Garrett Riley, who will be featured in a couple games on here on our list. But I don't know. I think I'm excited about Colorado's offense with Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders' son, the quarterback, and then Travis Hunter playing both ways, receiver and cornerback. We don't ever see that. So him and Cormani McClain at corner, they're going to be probably the best 1-2 corner punch in the country, if not top 5. But
yeah,
I can't sit here and not make a pick for this game. I'm going to say that TCU covers the 20.5 points. First game of the year for Colorado. I expect them to maybe play spoiler a little bit later in the year once they kind of get their footing underneath them, but I don't think it'll be the first game of the year at TCU.
I was going to say I think Colorado covers but still loses. I think that 20.5 points is a lot, especially for a team that's getting a lot of hype like Colorado. Obviously, Vegas doesn't agree. But I don't think – I was never, sold on TCU. Even last year, they deserved to make the playoffs, and they beat Michigan, which is good for them. But, every week, it was they scraped by. They made it to the next week. And so I think they're going to win. I don't think
they keep getting away with this.
Right. I don't think they're going to go out there and set the world on fire.
Pretty much 3-0 for us right now. I know we're going to differ on this game. All right, North Carolina – neutral site game. I believe it's in Charlotte, actually. So, I mean, it's technically neutral. North Carolina's playing South Carolina. I love the fact that we're getting this matchup. We don't get to see it too often, obviously, because South Carolina's in the SEC, North Carolina's ACC, but this is going to be a very, very fun game. Drake May, he's your Heisman pick. He's your beloved guy. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, but he's going to have to do it on his own, I think, in this game. Offensively, they don't really have too much to work with. But, I mean, you have the best quarterback in the country on your team. You have a chance. I mean, we saw it last year with us. But little bit nervous about North Carolina defense. Last season they were terrible. They haven't really improved personnel-wise. And then South Carolina offensively, Spencer Rattler's wild card. We saw him go off against Tennessee and Clemson and beat them, but we also have seen him look atrociously bad. And then 2 targets to watch for South Carolina are Antoine Juice Wells and Trey Knox. Juice Wells had 900 yards and 6 tutties last year and had over 100 yards in both of those games. So we'll see if he comes up clutch again in this one. But what are your thoughts on this matchup? I'm taking South Carolina money line. I'm going to assume you're taking North Carolina, but let's see.
I am taking North Carolina.
There we go. Our first disagreement.
Yeah. I think that Spencer Rattler is intriguing, and I think that he had a little bit of a resurgence last year. But I think that obviously it's not just a head-to-head duel between the quarterbacks, but it's the most important position. I think Drake May is better than Spencer Rattler. I think overall, like I said, I don't think South Carolina is like that top-tier SEC team, and I do think that even though the ACC is kind of weak this year in my mind, I like North Carolina to be on the top or near the top of that. And so I got to support my boy, I got to support Drake May.
I respect you supporting Drake May, but I kind of disagree when it comes to South Carolina. They've exceeded expectations every year, and I think this year is going to be the same thing. I think they'll win 8 games, and I think it'll start with this game against the UNC. Anytime you have an ACC versus SEC team, majority of the time I'm just going to roll with SEC because I'm very low on the ACC. It's been a horrible conference. Maybe this year that'll change. I think Miami will be better. Clemson will be back to where they were. I think the conference will be better. Florida State, but still, I got to take South Carolina money line that game.
Well, speaking of the next game, I think I got to do exactly what you just said. LSU versus Florida State. See, I am not bought into the Florida State hype yet. I think that Jordan Travis could be decent. I think that their defense is solid. I think that they have one of the best receiving cores in the league. But I don't know. I'm not sold on Florida State. And LSU, I don't think that they're going to, go to the SEC championship this year. And I don't know if Jaden Daniels is really that good, or if it was just now with like a year of him being the LSU starter, teams will be starting to adapt to him more. But I do think that Brian Kelly and LSU are going to pull this one out, and I'm just going to take LSU money line.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game, and the spread is LSU minus 2.5. So if you're picking the game, you might as well just go with the money line at that point because you're getting more value if you do that. All your points about Florida State are valid, and it's just funny. I think last show I was agreeing with you about not trusting Florida State and Mike Norvell, and I had my ACC prediction was Clemson, and then I thought about it, did a little bit of research. I'll call it research. I don't know what you call it, but it wasn't really research. But
it wasn't research.
Yeah, it was listening to college football podcasts of people that know more than I do. So I'll count that as research.
No.
But I just think that you touched on the weapons that Florida State has. Johnny Wilson is 6'7", Keon Coleman 6'4", Jaheim Bell, who they got from South Carolina, who I completely forgot they got from South Carolina, is 6'3" and is supposed to be the top tight end in this year's upcoming draft. And LSU's defensive backs are basically transfer portal. Their whole secondary is essentially transfer portal guys going up against big, talented receivers Johnny Wilson and Jordan Travis have experience, but I don't think Keon Coleman and Jaheim Bell have had any issues in the offseason developing chemistry. So I'm going to take Florida State. Obviously, Mason Smith, Florida State money line is what I'm taking. Mason Smith is out, defensive tackle, 5-star guy. I guess will never play in this game. Last year, he unfortunately suffered a knee injury that kept him out the rest of the year. And then this year, he has to serve a 1-game suspension, so that's why he'll be out. And then John Emery, running back, will be out, which won't really be a factor. You got Noah Kane and some other guys that they have at that position. But this is kind of a Mike Norvell legacy game.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, the game was horrible. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it. It was like
I don't remember.
It was watching two people basically just shoot themselves in the foot for a
Oh, wait. I actually know. I do remember.
There was fumbles and turnovers.
It was a crazy game, and I know FSU ended up pulling it out, right? Like at the very end. Or was it LSU ended up?
LSU ultimately won the game, but I remember it was completely chaotic. Gotcha. I mean, it was a horrible game. But I expect this year to be a lot more competitive, and I think Florida State wins this game. Clemson, Duke, I'll let you. This is the last game we have.
Yeah, Clemson, Duke. What, Clemson's favored by 13.5, right? Mm-hmm. I think that Clemson just kind of will stop Duke. I would take them to cover that game, honestly. I think that what's the quarterback's name? Why can't I think of his name?
Cade Klubnik.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik, obviously, like really talented quarterback. Will Shipley, running back. You know, some may call him the next Christian McCaffrey for some reason.
Because he's white and he's running back.
No, that's the reason. Yep. But no, I think that Clemson's going to go out there. Duke hasn't really like impressed me, maybe ever. I mean, I know they had Daniel Jones, right? But other than Daniel Jones, I can't really think of like any significant Duke players. And Duke's always kind of been like a middling team, and I think Clemson's ran the ACC for quite a while. I don't know if they're going to win it again, but I think that they're just better than Duke. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to take Clemson to cover the 13.5 points as well. Obviously, Duke the last couple of years has been kind of, I mean, they're a basketball school, but their football team has been a lot better. And that started with Daniel Jones. And Riley Leonard is actually an Alabama guy. I think he's from Mobile, and he's kind of going to be an underrated guy that'll fly over the radar towards the end of the year that's being slept on. But I think the key to this game and the key to Clemson just this year is Garrett Riley. I mean, we touched on earlier what he was able to do with the TCU offense that didn't have too much talent, and now he's at Clemson, and they presumably will have more talent this year offensively. Although the receiving room hasn't really been the best since some of those guys left, like Justin Ross and you got Mike Williams, guys that we're familiar with as Bama fans because they carved us up a good bit. But Garrett Riley's the key to Clemson this year, key to getting him on track. I think he'll have that passing game kind of humming again. And then defensive line-wise, you're replacing Brian Breesy, went to the Lions, Miles Murphy.
Yeah. Can't remember. Eagles, I think.
Yeah, I think he went to the Eagles. I know KJ Henry went to the Commanders. Breesy went to the
Murphy went to the Bengals, actually. Sorry.
Okay, so Murphy
I'm thinking of Nolan Smith went to the Eagles.
No, yeah, you're good. So KJ Henry, gone, went to the Commanders. Murphy, Bengals, and then Brees to the Lions. Tough to replace those guys, but I know Peter Woods, another local guy. Wow, ACC local guy segment. Peter Woods is a 5-star defensive lineman, so they'll plug him in, and then they have some other talented guys. So
yeah.
We kept it short tonight. College football is back.
Just about to kick off. I have
Perfect timing. Thank you all for tuning in, and the new people like Dark Sage that were in here. Thank you, and we hope to see you again. And everybody have a great weekend filled with college football mayhem.